politics behind black male passivity, effeminization, bisexuality, and homosexuality. Black male passivity, effeminization, bisexuality, and homosexuality are being encountered increasingly by black psychiatrists working with black patient populations. These issues are being presented by family members, personnel working in schools and other social institutions, or by black men themselves. Many in the black population are reaching the conclusion that such issues have become a problem of epidemic proportion amongst black people in the U.S., although it was an almost non-existent behavioral phenomenon amongst indigenous blacks in Africa. As black psychiatrists and behavioral scientists, we need to understand fully the individual and social dynamics involved in these patterns of behavior. We must be able to help our patients understand their conduct and change it if they so desire. Also, we should be in a position to comment on the ultimate implications of these behaviors for the well-being of black people, not simply as individuals, but as a whole organism of people seeking life and maximal development. In the final analysis, behavior is not simply an individual affair, for, when multiplied by thousands, it has profound effects on the life, future, existence, and well-being of the total people. In 1973, I presented my definition of black mental health: the practice of those unit patterns of behavior in all areas of people activity, economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war, which are simultaneously self and group supporting under the social and political conditions of worldwide white supremacy domination. In brief, this means black behavioral practice which resists self and group negation and destruction. The above are the criteria used to judge black mental health or black mental illness. The reader should be forewarned that my conceptualizations do not rely on the currently utilized late 19th and early 20th century European psychoanalytic theories of Sigmund Freud. If Freud's insights into behavior were truly adequate, they would have aided his 6 million fellow Semites in preventing their destruction by the anti-Semitic white supremacy power organization of Nazi Germany. Failing to understand this major behavioral dynamic, Freud had to flee to save his life. Furthermore, my conceptualizations do not rely on the recent position taken by the American Psychiatric Association that homosexuality is no longer categorized as a form of behavioral illness. This pronouncement has nothing to do with the mental health of black people. The human brain, the organ responsible for all patterns of logic, thought, speech, action, and emotional response, is an organ of the nervous system that evolved over many thousands of years. Its purpose has been to decode and solve problems in the external environment, both its physical and social aspects. Thus, specific patterns of behavior may be looked upon as functional or dysfunctional solutions to the problems posed by the external environment. When the brain's purpose is understood, patterns of male passivity, effeminization, bisexuality, and homosexuality may be looked upon as functional or dysfunctional solutions to specific problems posed in the environment, even though consciously they are not understood as such. But for what environmental problems are these behaviors considered answers, functional or dysfunctional, and for whom? These questions cannot be answered without first understanding the nature of the environment in which these behaviors occur. As explained in Chapter 1, racism is the dominant social system in today's world. Its fundamental dynamic is predicated upon the genetic recessive deficiency state of albinism, which is responsible for skin whiteness and thus the so-called white race. This genetic recessive trait is dominated by the genetic capacity to produce any of the various degrees of skin melanination, whether black, brown, red, or yellow. In other words, it can be annihilated as a phenotypic condition. Control of this potential for genetic domination and annihilation throughout the world is absolutely essential if the condition of skin whiteness is to survive. White survival is predicated upon aggressiveness and muscle mass in the form of technology directed against the non-white melaninated men on the planet Earth who constitute the numerical majority. Therefore, white survival and white power are dependent upon the various methodologies, tactics, and strategies developed to control all non-white men, as well as bring them into cooperative submission. This is especially important in the case of black men, because they have the greatest capacity to produce melanin and, in turn, the greatest genetic potential for the annihilation of skin albinism or skin whiteness. During the past 400 years, black men in the U.S. have been forced into passive and cooperative submission to white men. The major strategy has been the installation of an overwhelming fear. Specific tactics range from actual physical castration and lynching to other overt and more subtle forms of abuse, violence, and cruelty. We should not be ashamed to recognize these tactics used to oppress Black men. It is the truth. It is reality. Ultimately, this is the meaning of Black oppression. All Black people are oppressed. I emphasize here that Black men are oppressed because ultimately it is male muscle mass that oppresses a people, and only male muscle mass has the potential for achieving liberation. If the men of a people are oppressed, the women are brought under oppression, as they are dependent on their men for protection and defense. Women do not have the muscle mass to liberate a people and protect the young. Women develop the young, but their men must provide the protection and the security apparatus. The global white male collective understands the priority of white domination. They fully understand, consciously or unconsciously, the threat that Black men represent to them. Also, white males realize that in the final analysis, the vast majority of females must submit to males because of their lesser muscle mass. Additionally, white males fully understand that males who are forced to identify as females will be programmed simultaneously into submission to the males they call the man, as opposed to aggressive against those same men. White men in this world area have at least a vague, perhaps unconscious, understanding that after 20 generations, male passivity has evolved into male effeminization, bisexuality, and homosexuality. These patterns of behavior are simply expressions of male self-submission to other males in the area of people activity called sex. Males also can submit to males in any of the other 8 areas of people activity: economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, and war. Oppression is forced submission and cooperation in any of the areas of people activity. However, the white male arrives at his deeply repressed sense of femininity, because not only can he be dominated genetically by all Black and other men of color, but more profound from the white male perspective is the fact that he is dominated genetically by all Black and other non-white females. For the offspring of a white male and non-white female will be non-white like their mother rather than white like their white father. Thus, the offspring are genetically dominant in respect to the white male. This sense of genetic weakness when compared to the majority of the world's women propels the white male to project weakness, passivity, effeminization, bisexuality, and homosexuality onto the Black male, who is his arch potential challenger. Furthermore, the white male collective structures the social environment to transfer this mental protection into a functional reality. The more the Black male strives to stand, the weaker the white male feels by comparison, and the greater the white male's thrust to effeminate the Black male, to weaken the Black male's psychological potential for aggressive and assertive challenge, forcing him to remain submissive to the man. The American Psychiatric Association's decision to remove homosexuality from the list of mental disturbances resulted from the increasing number of white males seeking this mode of sexual expression due to an increasing consciousness of true white male weakness. Male bisexuality and homosexuality can be viewed as the sexual expression of male weakness, passivity, and effeminization. The motivation for these feelings and their sexual expression results primarily from the developing challenge by non-white men throughout the world to white male power and projected superiority. This challenge has assumed various subtle and overt forms during recent decades. For example, in the U.S., heavyweight boxing, basketball, baseball, and football have all been taken away from white males as symbolic expressions of white male virility and manhood. White males have been left with only 2 major sports wherein they dominate, and both consist of hitting small white balls. I need not even mention that Black men have been blocked effectively from participating in these remaining white stronghold sports. It is also crushing to the collective white male ego and sense of power to be told by colored men called Arabs that the whites cannot have any oil to run their machines to maintain and extend their technology, their major control apparatus. Increasingly, the white male is being forced to see himself as he really is. The white female's liberation movement is another disturbing threat to the white male's sense of power and masculinity, helping to push him to a weakened and homosexual stance. However, white females are reacting to the oppression imposed on them by white males. Feeling inferior to non-white males and females, the white male said to the white female, "Well, at least I am going to be superior to you." The white female reaction in the form of women's liberation is contributing further to white male-female alienation. pushing white males further into the homosexual position, and incidentally pushing white females in that direction also. The long-standing white male-female alienation in the white family has pushed the white female, perhaps unconsciously, to mold her sons to be more like herself than like their father. Thus, she creates a female with a penis. Additionally, she proceeds to fight back at the male and finally achieves symbolically a penis for herself, resolving the white female's penis envy complex, a compensation for her sense of inferiority imposed by men. In a similar way, she fights back at the white male when she captures a black male's penis and taunts the white male, who believes her black penis is stronger than his own. From another perspective, white male and female homosexuality can be viewed as the final expression of their dislike of their genetic albinism in a world numerically dominated by colored people. This dislike of their appearance, though deeply repressed, causes a negation of the act of self-reproduction in various forms. This is the eventual origin of homosexuality. It is a parallel activity to the all-familiar discussions of population zero and birth control, now current articulations in the white supremacy culture. All of the aforementioned dynamics are components of the total dynamic of racism. Some of the methodologies used to achieve black male submission or effeminization warrant further examination. Unlike the white male, the black male does not arrive at the effeminate, bisexual, or homosexual stance from any deeply repressed sense of genetic weakness, inadequacy, or disgust, which I refer to as primary effeminary. Instead, the black male arrives at this position secondarily as the result of the imposed power and cruelty of the white male and the totality of the white supremacy social and political apparatus that has forced 20 generations of black males into submission. This pattern of imposed submission is reinforced through every institution within the white supremacy system, but especially in the fundamental social institution of the family, or in this case, the black survival unit. I make the distinction in terminology between family and survival unit because the family, by definition, is a social institution that functions to support maximal development and protection of the young. However, under white supremacy, blacks and other non-whites are not to be developed maximally. They are permitted to survive as functional factors, alienated from self and from their own kind. The non-white survival unit is not permitted to defend itself or its young. The survival unit functions accordingly. The imposed internal dynamics of the survival unit, as within the racist system in general, function to negate black manhood, as fundamentally expressed in the relationship between breadwinning and true power potential. Even when high-level income is allowed, there is no true power in its ultimate sense, meaning to support, protect, and defend the lives of oneself, one's wife, and one's children. Under any serious system of oppression, this right is denied the oppressed male, and with its denial there is a concomitant and proportionate loss of respect for manhood in the oppressed population. This attitude begins first within the oppressed man himself and radiates to all other members of the survival unit. The resultant frustration of black manhood potential, a pressure and grievance that cannot be redressed directly at its source under fear of death, forces behavior into dysfunctional, non-satisfying, circular, obsessive-compulsive patterns in areas of people activity where greater degrees of maleness are permitted to be expressed. Under the white supremacy slavery system, the identity of sex machines was imposed upon black males, especially as many hands were needed in the fields for toil and labor. The many babies that were produced gave black males their most open avenue for at least a limited sense of manhood. Presently, with the birth control pills and with the pressure for population zero for all non-whites, this major male ego support also has been taken away. Without jobs, income, power, or even babies, there is no proof of sexual functioning. When this reality is coupled with the awareness that many women can receive more from a welfare check than they can from their male partners, the reasons for women respecting men and staying with them steadily decline, and black male-female alienation increases. Recent statistics reveal that today, 34% of black families are headed by females as compared to 10% of white families, and this figure is increasing each year. In the metropolitan area of Washington, D.C., there are 61,000 black male children growing up in homes without their fathers or other father surrogates, while 90% of their teachers in the public schools are also females. This produces a massive deficiency in adult males for role modeling and imprinting. Such role modeling and imprinting are essential for black male children to understand adult male role functioning. As black males and females become more and more alienated, as our current rates of separation and divorce indicate, and as black females are, being left to rear black male children alone, the alienation, hate, and disgust felt towards adult males are visited upon their sons subtly. A female alienated from males is hard-pressed to reinforce patterns of conduct in a male child that remind her of unhappiness and pain. She is much more inclined to say, "There you go, looking and acting like that no-good nigger father of yours." The black female teacher at school, who also may be experiencing alienation from her black man, if not inclined to make the same statement in such a direct manner, only says it more subtly, says nothing, or simply acts out her hate, disgust, and distrust of black males, achieving the same end result. It is little wonder that 98% of all of the black male children I talk with who have reached the junior high school level hate school. Schools and their personnel, like all other aspects of the racist system, do their share to alienate black males from maximal functioning, and thus further the ultimate alienation of black males from themselves and their manhood. As a result of this pattern of socialization, black males soon learn that it is easier to be a female child than a male child, and more promising to be an adult black female than an adult black male. In childhood, male children learn, whether at home or at school, that they can make mothers and female teachers happy when they act like females rather than like boys. The dearth of adult black males in the homes, schools, and neighborhoods leaves black male children no alternative models. Blindly, they seek out one another as models, and in their blindness end up in trouble, in juvenile homes or prisons. But fate and the dynamics of racism again play a vicious trick, because the young males only become more alienated from their manhood and more feminized in such settings. They are given orders by men to whom they must submit. They wait passively to be fed 3 meals a day by men, and finally, they have sexual intercourse with men. It is no wonder that they are unable to play the role of black men when they leave. One ex-prisoner patient told me, "It is easier to endure the life on the inside than to try to put up with the pressures of being a man, a husband, and a father in the street." The intent of racist programming had been achieved. Give up trying to be a black man. Why not be a woman? Many black males have answered unconsciously, why not? The braided and curled hair, the earrings and bracelets, the midriff tops, the cinch-waisted pants, the flowered underwear, the high-heeled shoes with platforms and the pocketbooks are all behavioral answers to the above. They say in loud and clear language, "White man, I will never come after you. I cannot run in my high heels, you know that. And I may mess up my hair." The white-run clothing industry is all too pleased to provide the costumes of feminine disguise for black male escape. However, they never would provide uniforms or combat gear if customers were willing to pay $1,000 per outfit. Television, which has become an important programmer of behavior in this social system and its culture, plays a further major role in alienating black males from black manhood. Flip Wilson, the highest-paid black male on television, maintains his high ratings by dressing in great detail as a tough and coarse black female. One of my 7-year-old black male patients told me, "My mommy likes Geraldine, and I think Geraldine is cute." Good Times, the latest media fare, for indoctrinating the black oppressed, shows a pitiful adult black male who never can seem to find an adequate job and a black adolescent male who is a criminal shoplifter and a complete clown. All of this takes place in the presence of a strong and powerful black female, who periodically drops down on her knees to pray to a white Jesus, whose miracles save the situation. These weekly insults to black manhood that we have been programmed to believe are entertainment and not direct racist warfare further reinforce, perhaps in the unconscious thinking of black people, a loss of respect for black manhood, while carrying that loss to ever deeper levels. One 12-year-old black male summed it up in this manner. When I questioned him about working hard and studying in school, "No, I do not want to study so I can help black people. If you try to help black people, you will be killed. Look at Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, and George Jackson. I don't want to die." This reality of white supremacy oppression must be approached either linearly or with circular patterns of behavior to escape this horrendous reality of death. Sex, having been granted as the one area wherein black males could express manhood, became the area of behavior where circular patterns of escape were acted out. Symbolically speaking, attempts were made to hide in the dark black vaginal orifice. When that closed down, the white vaginal orifice was tried. When that also proved unsatisfactory as a hiding place or passage to freedom, black and white male amuses were tried. Or one might say, these became the hoped for undercover railroads to freedom, the underground railroads as escape from the white man no longer being operative, because black men are forced into patterns of both conscious and unconscious logic. Ever-increasing incidents of black male passivity, effeminization, bisexuality, and homosexuality can be understood logically and accurately predicted. There is only one solution: that black males accompany, face the horrendous presence of white males and conquer the human beings. And it is black males and not females who must do the fighting. Black male homosexuality and bisexuality are only the long-run byproducts of males submitting in fear to other males in the social arena. They fail to resist because death is the result of resistance. The large number of black male homosexuals and bisexuals who report that they had, and have little or no respect for their fathers, might have had completely different life histories had they grown up with the knowledge that their fathers died while in defense of their manhood when it was attacked and challenged by the oppressor. This is especially true if their mothers also admired and respected the father's manhood. Then manhood would have been viewed as something so precious that one dies in defense of it. This is a quite different input into the child's brain computer than he was a no-good, trifling, lazy nigger, and you should never want to be like him. That the social political dynamic of racism, itself predicated upon the white male's alienation from his own genetic status, should in turn cause others to be alienated from their own genetic status. Determining color or sexual orientation should not cause surprise. It should put the victims of such a dynamic on the alert, so that they efficiently and effectively can counter this destructive assault against the appreciation of their own total genetic status. All black children should be protected by black people from being alienated against any of their genes, be those genes of color, sexual gender, or sickle cell anemia. Racists will attempt to bring about such genetic alienation, but black people should be prepared to counter it. Black psychiatrists must understand that whites may condone homosexuality for themselves, but we as blacks must see it as a strategy for destroying black people that must be countered. Homosexuals or bisexuals should neither be condemned nor degraded, as they did not decide that they would be so programmed in childhood. The racist system should be held responsible. Our task is to treat and prevent its continuing and increasing occurrence. One method I have been using with all black male patients, whether their particular disorder be passivity, effemination, bisexuality, homosexuality, or other, is to have them relax and envision themselves approaching and opposing in actual combat the collective of white males and females. The fear of such a confrontation is at the basis of most of today's black male pathologies, in patterns of logic, thought, speech, action, and emotional response as they participate in all areas of human activity. I have been working with black mothers of black male children, attempting to help them rid themselves of the fear of their sons and their men dying, which pushes them unconsciously to make babies of their sons and their husbands in an effort to try to protect and defend them. This response is the exact reverse of what is needed under the conditions of racism. Black women must learn to rear sons who will learn from the cradle that their major function as men is not to get a good job and a fine car, but to defend, protect, and support their people, even should death be the consequence. That the black male is not a sex machine, but a protector and developer of black people must be learned during the rearing process. There will be good jobs and self-respect once the people are liberated. There will be no true self-respect until that task is completed. As a people, we will need increasingly strong men, because we can expect that white males, driven into homosexuality from their sense of weakness compared to the world's majority of colored men, also will move towards others, which is always an attempt to compensate for the awareness of true weakness. Black male bisexuality and homosexuality has been used by the white collective in its effort to survive genetically in a world dominated by colored people, and black acceptance of this imposition does not solve the major problem of our oppression, but only further retards its ultimate solution.